Oh, hi there. Welcome to my Transformer collection, all my toys. I've been a lifelong Transformers fan ever since about 1984. Granted, I was only about 3 years old, but they've been around since then. And it all started for me with my Transformer comic collection with number 12. I think I got this for a birthday gift years and years ago. It came out right around that time. I probably must have been about 4 or 5 at the time. All I remember is a single panel about Optimus Prime's head sinking down into a pool of this pink fluid. What really drew me in is the contrast between this and the animated series, which is what I grew up on a lot more. But this really kind of gave you more into the background of the story. I gave up on Transformer comic collecting as I get older. When I got about 9 or 10, the Dick Tracy film and Batman came out, and I really got more into comic books, so the Transformer comics just kind of got pushed off to the wayside for me after a while. And before I know it, all these toys that I had, I just kind of got pushed away and forgot all about them, and it took a while for me to get back. And then something...
You poor excuse for a sound system on talk, no shock.
When I was about 8 to 9 and 10, I first started really getting into comic books. I would start to keep all of them in this little red briefcase that my mom had when she was a little girl. Before I knew it, this thing got really blown up, and I needed to find those big, long white boxes that you would find at your typical comic shop. At this comic shop, when I was growing up, I was lucky enough to find, all the way in the dusty back corner, this box of kids' comics at $5 for $1. When I started looking through them, I was able to discover that this comic shop owner had a bunch of Transformer comics that he did not want to do anymore. And what I wanted to do, I would just start going in there and buying $5 for $1. Back when Marvel first started introducing this series, it said that it was within the same Earth 616 of Spider-Man, and it did have a crossover with Secret Wars as well at the time, but it wasn't too long before they kind of gave up on the idea. I was able to get a majority of the initial run of the Transformer comics at this comic shop, and I would save up my money from doing little chores, and I would spend just every quarter, nickel and dime that I could on getting the series. So I ended up pretty much getting the first 30 to 40 issues of the story of the series while I was at this comic shop. And I would even get doubles, and I mean, I wouldn't even care if I even had doubles. Not many people would want to try and get rid of them for me. I'd put them up, and I would keep them in a box, and I would read them, and I was just so amazed to see the similarities and yet the differences between the books and the show that I knew about. But it was only a matter of time before hunting down comic shops and flea markets that I could not find the other 40 issues of the series. But I was determined to be collecting. And that continued for 15 more years.
You better report back to Megatron.
Luckily, around 1993 or so, I was walking in the Galleria, and I came across this newsstand. I saw that there was Cobra Commander and Megatron on the same cover. I really geeked out. I just had to get it. And I knew it wasn't the first time that G.I. Joe and Transformers they came across together. They actually had a miniseries in the early 80s about when they had explained how Goldbug came apart, and that was because G.I. Joe blew up Bumblebee. And it wasn't the first time they came across, or the further time. They had a lot of those series where the Hasbro Marvel characters were able to come across each other and work each other out. This kind of springboarded and gave Transformers Generation 2 their due. And unfortunately, the series only lasted about 12 issues. I was really upset because when I was a kid, it was the first and only time that I actually had a comic book subscription to Marvel. It ended early, so then they comped me with some G.I. Joe issues, which didn't last too long after that. So around the early to mid-90s is kind of dark time for the Marvel-Hasbro connection of comic books and the franchises. But it wasn't too long where I really started to pick up steam and really got more into the comic book collecting of my Transformers. As I got older into my teen years, I was really fortunate that around every Christmas or my birthday, my parents asked me, "Hey, what Transformer comics do you need to complete your collection?" They knew what I really needed because I would have them on display in my bedroom, and I had them pinned all up against my wall, and I had missing gaps where I needed to fill them in. And they had to search through eBay and a lot of other websites because around the issues 60 through 80 they're really hard to come by, primarily because Marvel started to do a shorter run on the books. There wasn't a lot of interest in the series as they got older, And I think it's also because the primary artist was writer Simon Furman, who did a lot of the books in Marvel UK. And basically what they did is they would take Marvel UK stories were a different direction that they were in America. Simon Furman was now a legendary Transformers comics writer, and they took the animated film and they kind of went into a different direction. They really propelled it in, and they added a lot of mythos to the whole new universe as well. And they have really beautiful artwork in there. It's a slightly bigger size. I have a couple of these books all put together from all the UK books. So it was within the series, but it also had its own direction. And these are so popular that the Marvel people in America asked Simon Furman to come on to finish up the end of the Marvel series, and it only lasted until about issue 80. Never got real justice, but he supposedly is going to do it a little bit more. So we look forward to see what he can do to wrap up the series.
Predacons, unite! Cornatron, face Predaking!
But around my college years through that time, I spent a lot of time just gathering up these last few remaining issues to complete my whole collection. I would go to flea markets and basically collect anything that even remotely even had Transformers on it. I had this Choose Your Own Adventure book, Marvel books here. I even hunted down the remaining of the mini-series that Marvel put out. They had G.I. Joe vs. Transformers. They adapted the animated film in 1986. They also had Headmasters during the whole Headmasters craze. Not to mention we had the whole Action Masters, Target Masters, Power Masters, all the masters that go with it. And kind of towards the end of the run, they did a collected album about Transformers, the universe, where they would have individual bios on every character that really came across the series. When I moved down to South Carolina, I was really kind of fortunate to come across one shop that had these How to Draw Transformers. I believe when I could find, these are published by Blackthorn, which are probably even hard to find nowadays. I can't even find them. I got the first 4, and they are very hard to come by, so if anybody happens to have the last 2, please let me know. I'm looking for those. And I found Transformers drawn 3D. You would have to actually wear 3D glasses to see these things that really hurt your eyes. I'm looking for the last issue of that. Anyone happens to know, let me know. But also during my time, I came across these IDW books. They are, I believe, I don't know, yeah, Dreamwave, I'm sorry. Dreamwave had these out for a while. I started getting really big into collecting. This is a time when the Transformers Japanese animated series are coming out, like Robot in Disguise and stuff, and I was just so desperate for material I would collect it. But I knew I had to stop, and I really kind of pushed everything aside for a long time. But it wasn't until a few months ago when I came across a collector or two at a convention, and I hunted them down, and thank you Mario's Comics for helping me get my very last issue of the series. So I now have the entire 80 issue set produced by Marvel, every UK book published, put together into collected trades, and all the miniseries put out by Marvel. If there's anyone out there that happens to have those few Blackthorn books, please let me know. I'd love to trade or whatever I can do it again from you. But I'm a Transformer fan, also known as a Trans fan, through and through, and it's taken me about 25 years to get this done, and I'm so happy it's all done. Thank you. Let me know what is your nerdy collection that you were able to complete.